Few people realize that one of the most consequential but overlooked aspects of the Korean War wasn't artillery, tanks, or aerial bombing. It was the material choices that shaped fortifications, bunkers, and supply points across the northern territories. Conventional histories focus on the movement of troops and high-profile engagements, but what rarely gets examined is how northern engineers consistently relied on earth foundations rather than timber or concrete, and why this decision shaped survival, defense, and even post-war reconstruction. Understanding this provides insight not just into military logistics, but into how people adapt to environmental constraints under extreme pressure. Before we go deeper, if you value detailed historical analysis grounded in practical realities, consider subscribing. This channel is dedicated to uncovering the nuanced decisions and overlooked strategies that often determine the course of events. Northern builders chose earth because it was resilient under fire and harsh winters. In the northern sectors of Korea, winters were bitter, with extended periods of sub-zero temperatures, heavy snow, and freeze-thaw cycles that destroyed less adaptable materials. Timber structures, common in southern defensive works, were prone to cracking and collapse under heavy snow or frost. Concrete, while strong in compression, was difficult to source and maintain, particularly in remote areas where transportation infrastructure had been disrupted by war. Earth foundations, by contrast, could be excavated on site, easily reshaped and naturally insulated against cold. When northern engineers constructed defensive bunkers, command posts, and supply depots, they often dug deep into the ground, reinforcing walls with compacted soil, and sometimes layering with sand, gravel, or clay. These foundations absorbed the shock of nearby artillery and minimized structural damage that would have forced frequent repairs. Earth also had the advantage of camouflage and concealment. Northern positions could be integrated into the landscape almost seamlessly, reducing exposure to aerial reconnaissance and bombing runs. Observers noted that bunkers and trenches reinforced with earth were difficult to detect from both the air and long-range observation posts. This decision was not just about defense, it was also about survival. Soldiers occupying these structures were better protected from environmental stresses, and supplies stored within were less likely to freeze or deteriorate, which was critical during prolonged engagements. Some historians have suggested that earth foundations were simply a result of resource scarcity, but the reality is more nuanced. The North had access to timber, but using it for permanent structures would have exposed key positions to fire and decay. Transporting cement or steel to remote outposts was costly and dangerous, especially under constant threat of airstrikes. By relying on soil, builders minimized the logistical burden and could rapidly construct multiple fortified positions with minimal external support. In practice, this meant northern units could establish successive lines of defense in advance of expected offensives. Trenches and bunkers could be extended, repaired, or reoriented, using the same basic materials without requiring supply convoys or specialized labor. For survivalists or military planners examining historical examples, the lesson is clear. Prioritizing material adaptability and local availability can create strategic depth and resilience, far beyond what high-tech or imported materials might provide under pressure. Building on earth required careful attention to compaction and layering. Northern engineers developed methods to reinforce soil using rudimentary yet effective techniques. They often layered softer topsoil with denser subsoil, compacting each layer manually or with simple mechanical tools. In some cases, they added small quantities of gravel or sand to improve drainage and prevent water from weakening the foundation. This layering not only stabilized walls and floors, but also allowed positions to absorb artillery impacts without collapsing. Observations from United Nations forces noted that bunkers constructed in this way often remained functional even after sustained bombardment. In one documented case near the Chosin Reservoir, a supply depot reinforced with compacted earth layers remained largely intact despite repeated shelling, while nearby timber and concrete structures suffered catastrophic damage. These examples highlight the practical intelligence behind northern choices, which often goes unrecognized in conventional military histories. The Korean War was marked by prolonged periods of encirclement and supply shortages. Earth foundations offered a significant survival advantage under these conditions. Compacted soil naturally insulated interiors, maintaining temperatures several degrees higher than outside air, which reduced frostbite and cold-related injuries among troops. Earth walls also allowed for better humidity control, preventing stored provisions from freezing solid or becoming moldy. These advantages extended to water management as well. Bunkers with properly graded earth floors and drainage channels could divert meltwater and rain away from living spaces, reducing disease and maintaining morale. Beyond immediate military applications, the reliance on earth foundations influenced post-war rebuilding. Many northern villages and outposts had been constructed with the same soil-based techniques. While this meant initial structures were simpler and quicker to erect, they also endured harsh conditions with minimal maintenance. This durability allowed communities to recover more quickly after battles, whereas areas reliant on timber or damaged concrete required extensive rebuilding. Because northern positions were easier to repair and extend, commanders could plan operations with more flexible defense-in-depth strategies. Earth bunkers and trenches could be connected via concealed pathways, allowing rapid reinforcement or retreat without exposing troops to enemy observation. Supply lines integrated into earth-based structures were more secure and less vulnerable to disruption. Understanding why northern builders preferred earth foundations challenges the assumption that high-tech or imported materials are always superior. In both historical and survivalist contexts, the best choice is often dictated by environmental conditions, material availability, and long-term resilience rather than immediate appearance or, theoretical strength. Earth, carefully compacted, layered, and maintained, provides insulation, protection, and camouflage. It enables prolonged occupation and reduces dependence on fragile supply chains. When we focus exclusively on casualties, movements, and high-profile engagements, we overlook the everyday decisions that shape survival and operational effectiveness. Earth foundations in the Northern Korean War are a clear example of this principle. They were a product of observation, adaptation, and foresight, qualities that determined not just who survived, but who could maintain operational capacity and recover after the conflict. By examining these choices, we gain a fuller understanding of human endurance, strategic thinking, and the practical realities of warfare. If this kind of in-depth analysis is valuable to you, subscribe to the channel. Sharing this video helps others explore the often overlooked decisions and strategies that have shaped history, and ensures that nuanced, practical lessons are preserved for those who want to study and learn from the past. And from the